Well, we've really been collectively brainwashed by the conventional medical system to judge any symptom as inappropriate rather than understanding that the human experience comes with a variety of symptoms. There's this messaging that a rash or a wart or a cough or cold is inappropriate and needs to be treated with a chemical medication. And in my opinion, and in homeopathic philosophy, this couldn't be more wrong.
This is the Made for Living Well podcast, hosted by Alexa Sherm, the place to create a life well lived.
Welcome back to Made for Living Well. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're going to talk about homeopathy. Now, this is a subject we haven't really dove into much here on the podcast, but it is a topic that has aided my healing so much, and I wanted to share more about it. In fact, today I have guest expert Jenny Hoagland on the show, who has an extensive medical background, including that with homeopathy, laboratory science, fertility, and blood banking. Jenny is well equipped to understand your illness and symptoms. Utilizing the system of homeopathic medicine allows Jenny to help clients find a deeper and longer lasting healing than is possible with conventional medicines, because homeopathy is able to address the root cause of illness and stimulate a healing response in the individual. Jenny is a graduate of the 4-year classical homeopathy training program at Northwestern Academy of Homeopathy in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She served there as clinical supervisor for many years. She is also an integrative provider with pregnancy and postpartum support and has a special interest in clients with postpartum mood disorders. Additionally, Jenny holds a certified classical homeopath credential through the Council for Homeopathic Certification, which is a national organization. Jenny is pleased to offer services to individuals and families suffering from acute and chronic ailments. And as Jenny says, there's nothing more rewarding as seeing a client find freedom and happiness through homeopathy. It really works. You can learn more about Jenny and all of the programs and personal help that she offers at hoaglandhomeopathy.com. And on Instagram at The Enlightened Homeopath. I'll make sure and link all of that up in the show notes, and you're going to want to head over there to check out more and sign up for the emails that you will get every week called the Weekly Fill. These are not like your ordinary emails, but they offer so much guidance and dive deeper into healing, not just the body, but the mind and soul, healthifying the whole of who you are. So you can find all the show notes and links that we talk about in today's show, as well as sign up for the email list while you're over there. But for now, I want to dig right into today's show and welcome Jenny. Welcome to the show, Jenny. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Alexa. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, well, today we're going to talk about a subject that I actually have a lot of history with, and when we get into homeopathy and even cell salts, but it's funny because I haven't talked a lot about it on here. And I think part of it is it's very personalized, or at least it has been for me. And also, there's not a ton of people who are really talking and doing this work. I mean, it probably feels like that to you, but I feel like when I talk about it, it's a very new subject to a lot of people. So can you explain and describe what homeopathy is and really what the benefits and why you got into this journey with homeopathic medicine?
Sure. Well, a lot of people think homeopathic means natural. Mm-hmm. And it couldn't be farther from the truth. Really, homeopathy is a very specific branch of holistic medicine that falls under the umbrella of natural or holistic, but is actually its own specific modality. Homeopathic remedies use very diluted doses of all types of natural substance that in their raw form could cause symptoms, and made into a homeopathic remedy, which is very diluted, they can help a sick person suffering from those symptoms. So basically, a substance that could cause symptoms in a healthy person can be used in the homeopathic or very diluted version, which is what those little pellets, those little homeopathic remedies are. They're a raw substance that's been prepared in a special way called succussion, where we take an original substance, we make it into, a mother tincture with alcohol, dilute it and pound it a specific number of times in between dilutions. This is done in, dedicated production facilities to very specific protocols of production, similarly to the way supplements or even medications are made, very specific standards. But the way that they're made is completely different from any pharmaceutical or even any natural herbs, supplements, or vitamins because of that succussion, that dilution. Is able to extract the energetic or healing properties from the substance while leaving the toxic properties of the substance behind. So we have very powerfully healing remedies made from, some substances. Take the remedy arsenicum, made from arsenic. In its raw form, of course, it's very toxic and poisonous, but in the homeopathic form, it can be used to help someone who is sick, suffering from symptoms similar to that of arsenic poisoning. So somebody with a flu who's feeling very restless, very anguished, having burning diarrhea, thirsty for small sips of water, they can have a huge mental, emotional component of anxiety and restlessness. These are the symptoms we see in arsenic poisoning, and symptoms that can show up in somebody who's acutely ill. The remedy arsenicum will help. So that's just an example of how homeopathy works. Another example that I use all the time is what happens when we're chopping an onion.
Yeah.
Our eyes,
right.
It's not very pleasant. Our eyes water and our nose runs. And so we have a remedy made from red onion called Allium cepa. We use the Latin names for all remedies to avoid confusion across languages. So the remedy Allium cepa is very useful for somebody suffering from hay fever when the symptoms are similar to chopping an onion, right? Burning water eyes, runny nose. Allium cepa is one of our top hay fever remedies. So you can see how that like cures like, which is what homeopathy literally means, translated. A substance that would cause symptoms in a healthy person can be used in the homeopathic or very diluted form to help somebody who's suffering from those symptoms.
Yeah. And you talked about the energetic value of this. And I love talking about that because I think energy and the word that most people associate with it feels kind of woo-woo. It feels kind of out there.
Oh, for sure.
But there is a biological, even a mental response to this energetic value. Can you talk about that in the homeopathic and maybe just in the scope of the whole body in general?
Yeah.
How the energetic value of these things is working.
Well, it's a frequency. So we've all heard of energetic frequency, and that's what I'm referring to. So essentially, homeopathic remedies are prepared in a way that the frequency of the original substance is amplified, and the chemical effects, the toxic effects of the raw substance are left behind. So when we can harness frequency, we're able to help a person at a different level than the chemical level. So all of the drugs we take from the pharmaceutical industry, all of the supplements and herbs, these act chemically in the body. But the level of frequency is sort of the precursor to all the chemical reactions happening in the body. And so when we're stuck at the level of energetic frequency, whether it's with a chronic or an acute illness, it's kind of hard to move out of that. And homeopathic remedies have the ability to interact with our systems on that dynamic level of energetic frequency. It's like a little nudge to our system to move down the path of least resistance toward wellness, rather than sort of bludgeoning the system into doing something different than it's doing with chemicals, in medications. Homeopathy is the exact opposite. It's a gentle stimulation to the body, really to heal itself. Homeopathic remedies are able to tap into the innate healing capacity that we all have. So whether we're taking a remedy, from a homeopath for more of a constitutional or chronic issue, because homeopathy can work for both acute and chronic issues. But whether we're, using a remedy at home that we've picked up to help with allergies or a fever or a cough or cold, or we're taking something from our homeopath, it works the same way. It helps us get out of that stuckness and move toward wellness, because a lot of times, it's obvious in chronic illness that many people get stuck, but in acute situations, we can get stuck too. You see kids kind of stuck in a high fever where they're very uncomfortable, or a cough that won't resolve, or vomiting that has ended, but they're still dry heaving. Sometimes acute illness is very kind of jarring and shocking to our system, and our system gets a bit stuck in that process. And so homeopathy has an amazing application of being able to be helpful in both acute and chronic issues.
Yeah. And I have loved it in my own healing journey, because like you said, it's almost like a support to the body, to like a little nudge to push it along in its own healing journey, to kind of give it that little bit of support that it needs to do the job that it was designed to do. And you have I love your Instagram page. I love the work that you do, but you talk in a different sphere than most people understand, I think, in the Western medicine scope of like even things like you had a post on warts and maybe why we should just let the wart be. Can you talk about this healing principle of the body and why we should recognize that maybe not all things are things that we should just jump on and try to fix, but kind of let the body go through its own process?
Well, we've really been collectively brainwashed by the conventional medical system to judge any symptom as inappropriate rather than understanding that the human experience comes with a variety of symptoms. There's this messaging that a rash or a wart or a cough or cold is inappropriate and needs to be treated with a chemical medication. And in my opinion, and in homeopathic philosophy, this couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah.
Every symptom that is produced by, any body system is really an effort to achieve homeostasis. The body is very wise and produces symptoms that will help it find balance. And so when we come in with our arrogance and our hubris of conventional medicine and say, well, that's not right, I'm going to give a medication that just plucks the symptom off of the person, with no reverence or understanding for the fact that the body has more wisdom than we could ever imagine.
Right.
We do a disservice and we plummet ourselves into chronic illness by the removal of some of these benign symptoms. So for something like a wart, if you have warts all over and it's horrible and ruining your life, that's one thing. But if you have a wart on your foot or your hand that's not causing any symptoms, it's simply the fact that, I have a wart and I've been taught that I need to get rid of it. Let's think again, because oftentimes what happens is we remove this, we remove that, we take this medicine, we suppress that. Before you know it, we end up chronically ill because the body will always try to find the path of least resistance. It will always try to express a distunement in its inner frequency with a superficial symptom that isn't very harmful to the whole person. And so the more we eliminate its sort of ability to produce symptoms by removing the pathway, with suppressive medication or surgical removal of body parts, the illness has nowhere to go but inward. And so that's when you start having deeper, more chronic illness with, body systems, arthritis, kidney issues, liver issues, reproductive system. I mean, all of these chronic ailments that people suffer from tend to be a result of suppression. And so that's what I love about homeopathy, is that it stimulates the system to gently unwind that frequency, that imbalanced frequency, or that pattern that we hold deep inside of us that's causing the symptoms. So certainly if you have a wart, go see a homeopath, right? That's a good clue for us about a constitutional remedy that can help you, but don't just try to get rid of it on your own, because something else will pop up.
Yeah, right.
And if you've gotten rid of a wart, it's not the end of the world, right? That's a minor symptom. That's a small example, but it's the repeated suppression over many, many years that can cause problems.
And we do that in a lot of different ways. I mean, because it is so standard to see these little annoyances as problems and try to fix them, as opposed to, like you kind of said, regain that balance of the system, letting the system do the work that it needs to do to heal the whole. Now, when it comes to homeopathy, I think people hear that word, but they're like, okay, but what exactly is it? Like, what does that look like? Can you just like get into maybe just a few examples of like, okay, you have this problem, and this is how we figure out a homeopathy regimen? I mean, from my own experience with it, I felt like, and maybe I have a misguided experience, I don't know. But if I was suffering with something, like I have the tinctures, right? And I feel like I'm kind of trying to guess. I had some guidance at the start, but now I'm trying to guess on my own what goes with what. And I feel like sometimes it is confusing to me. So is that where it's like, okay, it's constantly changing, it's very individualized, or once you kind of get into it and then you can start to self-adjust for yourself?
Well, there's, a whole system you can use for treating acute ailments at home, right? There's I have a course on it. There are many, many remedies that you can learn to use at home for temporary or acute issues. But for anything chronic, you want to definitely see a professional homeopath because you can't see yourself objectively. I don't treat myself with constitutional remedies. It's very important to see a professional homeopath because I've never met a person who's able to really figure out what remedy they need for a chronic or ongoing issue. Things like anxiety, hormonal imbalance, digestive issues. These all need help from a professional homeopath. Things that you can use remedies for at home are things like coughs, colds, flus, stomach bugs, hand, foot, mouth. And I'd like to speak a little bit too about what I mean by energetic frequency and how does our energetic frequency become misattuned?
Yeah.
So on that constitutional level, I'm talking about misattunements that we've held our whole lives, right? Maybe it's an anxiety or an out of proportion stress response, or it could be physical symptoms. Maybe we have eczema or psoriasis that's plagued us our whole life. Typically, these imbalanced energy patterns, these frequency issues are passed down through generations. Traumatic experiences that we've had or that somebody in our ancestral lineage has had. These traumas affect our frequency and they get deeply embedded and passed down through generations. And homeopathy is just about the only modality that can really go in and stimulate our system to let go of that old trauma pattern that we've been holding on to. So for chronic long-term things, that's the level of healing that homeopathy is able to bring about. For, acute issues at home, it's not so deep and dramatic, right? It's just our system gets a little bit stuck because we're going through an acute illness. And that's why it's okay to treat, to self-prescribe homeopathic remedies for acute things. Yeah. So I would definitely seek out care of a professional for those issues. Yeah.
So what are, I think I kind of missed my first question, but what were some of the big things that you have treated, or maybe some of the examples of treatment and what a homeopathy regimen actually looks like? Because I think we often think like, okay, I have this problem, so I'm going to take this drug and it's going to automatically fix this, or the symptoms are going to disappear. And we get really stuck in this quick fix sort of lifestyle of like, I should instantly see results. But I don't know if this is easy to explain or not, because it's not for me. So that's why I'm asking you the question as a homeopathy expert. Like, what does this look like? If you have, let's say, anxiety, what is a regimen like that? Like the treatment process, coming in and finding, are you doing any sort of muscle testing or how are you getting in to understand which homeopathy is the correct one for you?
Great question. So first of all, in homeopathy, we don't treat or diagnose any conditions. I'm not a medical doctor. Homeopathy offers support to the individual and stimulates a healing response in the person so that vitality can increase, so that the mind and body can heal themselves. It's very different from treating a condition. Homeopathic remedies help the person. And so to assess which homeopathic remedy would be best suited for you on a constitutional level, we need to do an intake, which is about an hour consultation where we talk about everything: your health history, your personality, your fears, your dreams, your symptoms, what life was like in childhood. A lot of times I really need to get to know who you are and what your sensitivities are, both mental, emotional, physical sensitivities, because remedy selection is not based on the name of your illness. I could have 100 patients with anxiety and each one would get a different remedy because it's based on who we are as a person and our individual experience. I absolutely do not use any muscle testing. It is not reliable in in assessing for a homeopathic remedy. In my experience, you need to understand what's happening with the patient on a constitutional level. I don't know a lot about muscle testing, and I know some practitioners use it to determine what remedy can be used acutely. That may be a little bit more effective, but for a constitutional issue, it's actually something I would advise against doing any sort of muscle testing for a homeopathic remedy, because you need the expertise of a classical homeopath to understand what remedy will be most helpful for that frequency that you're kind of stuck at, for that ingrained stress response that you're holding. And we gather all that with a verbal consult done, either by phone or by Zoom. Most of my consults are by Zoom. And then what it looks like is I do my assessment. I take a couple of days, think about the case, do case analysis. So I'm spending quite a bit of time beyond just that initial intake thinking about your case. I then send a remedy, or I have it sent from a homeopathic dispensary. And it's something you just take periodically. It's not often a daily remedy because it's not like a chemical medication coursing through your bloodstream. Homeopathic remedies are an energetic stimulation to your system to move in the direction of healing. So very frequently, clients will just take 1 or 2 doses a month, and then we'll meet every couple months for, 4 to 6 months, see how you're doing. Generally, after a couple of follow-ups, people are feeling really good. I'm talking 70, 80, 90% better. And they can just keep taking their remedy, email me every couple months, and we'll just go from there. People usually need repeated doses of their remedy for even a couple of years because the system is so used to holding that imbalanced pattern that each dose of the remedy helps it, let go a little bit. But it takes a little while. But eventually you don't need it very often. Sometimes you need a different remedy if something happens in life, a grief or a stressful event, or you become acutely ill. But homeopathy is really there for you throughout the rest of your life. And most people, once they develop this relationship with me as their homeopath, they're so happy. It's the best money they ever spent. They would have paid 10 times the amount because it brings such freedom and ease. And it's really the deepest healing most people have ever experienced. That's why, back to your original question of why did I become a homeopath? I experienced that healing myself and had to learn more about it. It's just so powerful and really awesome.
Yeah. I feel like it is kind of, I feel like a lot of the disease processes that Western medicine would claim, they feel like life sentences. Here's your label, you're going to carry it forever. And it almost just creates that internal belief that we're just constantly broken and that the only remedy that we have is to find something that can bandage us back together so that we could just live our life. But what I do love about this is, like you said, it offers that deep healing in a way that's so supportive to your body that doesn't just heal that symptom, but it's the whole kind of who you are, right? Like it's healing multiple things at the same time, or at least supporting your body so that it can do all of that work. Now, one thing that you mentioned in the intake is you talk about the emotional component of understanding their childhood, understanding some of those situations that have gone on. And there's this massive mind-body connection that we talk often about here. And it's so vital to the health of the whole. Can you talk more about why the emotional component is so important to you and how this influences kind of the homeopathy remedies that you might put out?
That's a great question. And I would say we go beyond even the emotional component, right? It's not about, I felt sad or I feel scared. It's about one step. It's about looking one layer more deeply into the realm of kind of the inner experience of the patient. So what this means is it's about how are you perceiving the world? What's the lens through which you're looking, right? We all have a specific sensitivity. Maybe some of us feel like other people don't like us and we're always under attack and scrutiny and we have problems in relationships. Others of us may feel like money is always running out and we're, trying to be very frugal and we're up at night worrying about losing money. Others of us may be so sensitive to pain and, navigating all of these pain issues in life. Others of us may feel like we have to only eat 3 items every day because our systems are so sensitive, we'll have a reaction. And so it's that inner piece of, what axis does your world spin on, really, that I'm looking for, rather than a 2-dimensional list of feelings or emotions. It is stepping into the inner experience of the patient and understanding what it is to live life in their shoes. It's often a conversation at a level of depth that people have never had before. No one has ever been as interested in their inner experience, because that would be weird, right? It's not that level of conversation we have on a day-to-day basis, but to sort of go into that realm with a homeopath is a very healing experience in and of itself, because we are seen and understood on such a deep level. It's very refreshing, and most people really enjoy the initial intake because of that.
Yeah. So when you start to get in and understand the kind of the inner world, how is that influencing maybe the symptoms or the body connection to that of, okay, you're starting to put the pieces together that you're having this? Is that kind of the thought process through getting into their inner world?
It is. I mean, what we refer to it in homeopathy as the delusion, right? We all carry a delusion about life. And that's related to our sensitivity. Like my inner delusion could be that, again, nobody likes me and people are just waiting for me to screw up and people are talking bad about me. You know, we've all seen people in this state. Or the delusion that money is in short supply and I could lose it all at any minute. That delusion is often related to traumas like the Great Depression, you know, and passed down through generations. But anyway, no matter what the delusion is, all physical symptoms stem from that inner delusion. Our system will produce physical symptoms that stem from that imbalanced energy pattern, that stuckness on the level of frequency. That's where all symptoms, mental, emotional, and physical, come from. That's why one homeopathic remedy that's a match for that core disattunement can help bring everything in a person into balance. That's why I always say it's the deepest, most powerful healing modality ever, because with one remedy, so much stuff can get better. And, you know, we've all had the experience of going to a practitioner and then we have to buy thousands of dollars of supplements.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, that just doesn't work. It just spins us in circles, and we're chasing, you know, parasites, chasing yeast, chasing Epstein-Barr, whatever it is. And in homeopathy, we understand that it's not those offending agents that are the problem. It's our own inner misattunement that creates a susceptibility.
And that's what I love so much about the work that you do, because I think we are living in a world, especially in the health space, that feels so overwhelming, and everyone's worried if they have a parasite or they have Epstein-Barr. And we're just, like you said, we're kind of chasing down what could be our problem, which is kind of distracting us from what it really is.
Yeah.
And the work of this really takes the psychological work that people are doing with the health work that they're trying to do, and it just like converges it together into that sweet spot where you can really dig in. Okay. So I don't know that if you want to do this here but I have dealt with a lot of issues with my lymphatic drainage, and like I've done a lot of healing. You know, I've had all the diagnosis, Lyme's disease, Epstein-Barr, all the things, which again, I'm kind of like, I'm not going to let those be my label, right? Like I see them as like my body, as you said, I was susceptible to them because of an inner turmoil. Now, I've done a lot of homeopathy work, probably not by someone who is as fully skilled and trained as you are, because I mean, I think they knew enough, you know, to get into it, but not the full scope of this. But one issue that I've dealt a lot with is my lymphatic system. Like we just can't get it to properly drain. So is that still an issue of like the inner turmoil has never been dealt with? Because I've never done it on that level. Like I've done, you know, some emotional release work, then, you know, you do some other acute work, but I haven't ever had someone do that with me.
Yeah, I would book in for a constitutional intake with a homeopath, because, you know, it's not just about the lymphatic drainage. It's affecting you mentally, emotionally, and physically. I can tell by the fact that you're, you know, it's become this struggle. And that's how it is for all of us. When we have a symptom, it's not just about the symptom. It's also about our interaction with the symptom.
Right.
How is this affecting our lives? What are our fears around it? What does it mean that we have this symptom? And so the homeopathic intake is like taking a step back and observing the whole thing, the whole story that's happening with the symptom, because it's not about the symptom. It's not about the lymphatic drainage. It's about, it's just, that's a vehicle for your system to express the internal imbalance. Right. And so very likely it comes down to, you know, something like and I'm not saying this is true for you, but I'm just imagining, it makes me really ugly and I can't go out in public. I don't think you have huge issues where you've got like lymphedema or lipedema, but for people who kind of have this issue, it's horrifying. It's, life-changing. It's not just about the issue. It's, I've got this horrible condition and it's ruining my life.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? And digging into exploring what that is, where is it limiting you? Because it's not something you're doing wrong. It's not something you're missing, really. It's not some virus that you have to chase down and kill. It's simply a part of you that wants to be understood and ultimately loved and accepted by you and integrated. And that's what homeopathy helps to do. It's not about amputating a part of ourself or just getting rid of. It's about understanding that these symptoms come to help us heal.
Yeah. And I love how you said it's not a part that's missing, because I feel like I have been on this quest to be like, I'm in the health space. I'm a nutritionist. I should know what is missing, what am I doing? What am I not seeing? Right. And I love how you just like kind of created freedom there to say like, that's not it. It's not that you're missing something.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to sign up for a consult. I know you have multiple practitioners that you have in your practice.
I do. Yep. I have a team. I've got an intern who's a 4th-year student. I have, her name is Misty. I have Kathy Yo, who is my colleague with the same amount of experience as me, an advanced practitioner. She's got over 10 years of experience. She's great with complex, severe pathology. She's a wonderful gal. And then I have Kaylee on my team, who is the Ripened Heart on Instagram. We're all on Instagram, but she is your gal for like this deep soul healing experience. I love everybody on my team. And I'm of course available too, but booked out probably a couple months. So it just depends on when people want to get in, but it's such a rewarding thing to think about, getting your case taken by a homeopath and receiving that constitutional remedy. It's the best thing you could do for yourself or your kids, in general, for anybody. Yeah.
Oh, so powerful. Okay. I'm going to do it. And then maybe we can come back on and just share results. Cause I think some people are like, okay, what does this look like for you? Not to say that people need to repeat that, but I think it gives them a new story, to really understand this. Because when I talk about it with people, it is kind of like, I want to understand, but it's a little bit tricky to understand until you've also lived it or heard about it and experienced it. Okay. I am so fascinated by that work, but I kind of want to get into another topic that I have mentioned on here. We haven't gotten into a ton, but it refers to cell salts.
Yeah.
Can you just explain in your own way what cell salts are and why you would use them?
Yeah. So cell salts are homeopathic, but they're not as diluted as a homeopathic remedy that you would get from a homeopath, or, even an acute remedy that you'd buy at Whole Foods or a co-op. Cell salts are sort of the bridge between supplements and homeopathic remedies. They are mineral combinations of substances that our body uses to function, to heal, to repair itself. So specific mineral combinations that correlate with all different tissues of the body. They're used to support specific issues, specific body systems, and they're used really more generally and more like you would use a supplement. They're more used like for a condition or to support a specific body system. So they're not, you don't have to be as particular or as exact as you do when you're choosing a homeopathic remedy, because even when you're using a homeopathic remedy acutely, you want to be very specific and very intentional about your choice based on the exact experience of the sick person, or the person who is in pain or whatever, needs the remedy. But with cell salts, it's like, oh, this is the situation. I can reasonably select this cell salt to support, for example, if somebody has a lot of cavities, you'd want to use the cell salts calc fluor and calc phos to help support remineralization, or when they have bone density issues, you could do the same. So they are prescribed much more for the condition, for the support of the specific body system or body tissue than homeopathic remedies are. They're so wonderful for gentle support for physical, mental, emotional issues. Cali phos is a great cell salt that's so useful for burned out, frazzled moms who have like nerves on edge. You'll find them in the 6X potency. So cell salts. I have a course on it. I love homeopathystore.com. They have great liquid cell salt sprays that are the best I've found in terms of
So you prefer the liquid
quality
over the little pellets that dissolve in your mouth?
I do. Yeah. Just because I personally know the owner of that shop and it's just such a high quality product. I love them. And the sprays are really convenient. You can just carry them, spray them when you need them. My absolute favorite cell salt product is called Cellergy or Bioplasma. It's a combination of all 12 cell salts and is really useful for a general support whenever you're feeling fatigued, run down during your period, during acute illness, if you feel illness coming on, things like that. Cellergy is a really nice support. Everybody should have a bottle of Cellergy or Bioplasma on hand, in my opinion.
And what is it doing inside the body? Like, how is this acting in support of your body?
So, when you take a supplement, it's giving yourself a big dose of like calcium or, magnesium. The cell salts are slightly potentized. They're slightly diluted and prepared in this homeopathic way. So they have the ability to actually increase your body's ability to absorb the mineral combination while delivering the actual mineral combination itself. So it's a much more highly absorbable form of mineral support.
Yeah. If you were looking at them, because there's 12 different forms, correct? 12 different cell salts?
12 different cell salt combinations. Yep.
And then you have the all-in-one.
Yes, exactly. So that would be kind of 13 products. Yeah.
13. Yeah. So could you, if someone was just starting out with cell salts, just say, get the all-in-one product, the one that you just recommended, or is it good to dive in? I mean, you have a whole course on it.
I do.
And get all 12 and use the different ones.
Yeah, you could certainly get a whole kit. You could learn about them. If you go to my Instagram, I'm the Enlightened Homeopath. I just did 13-day deep dive into cell salts where we go over every single cell salt and what its use is, what it's best used for. And you can learn a lot for free just from those posts.
Yeah. And I've been giving them to my children because I think they're so supportive and helpful. Like you said, they're very gentle in that nature, but they do have that mineral aspect. And in the world of nutrition, I think what we're seeing now is just there's mass amounts of mineral deficiencies that we're dealing with. And when we look at homeopathic remedies, I want to be clear. Homeopathic remedies are not the same as supplements because I think people are going to think that it's kind of in the supplement realm. Can you first distinguish the difference between a homeopathic remedy and a supplement?
Well, sure. Like I said earlier, supplements are a raw substance. They're a straight herb, mineral, vitamin. Homeopathic remedies are prepared in that way called succussion. They're very diluted. So cell salts are they are still succussed a little bit. And so they're going to be, again, a better way to absorb the mineral combination. Because a lot of times there's an issue with absorption and we're not able to utilize calcium, even though we're eating plenty of it. We're not able to utilize the magnesium that we're taking because it's a bit of a mismatch for our system or our body isn't just in a space to absorb it. The cell salts are such a much more absorbable form of these specific mineral combinations. And the fact that they're in combination means that they're the exact, molecules.
Right.
They're the exact combination of these minerals that our body most wants. And so we're able to offer more direct support to specific body systems like teeth, like bones, like connective tissue. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. When you do homeopathic remedies, do you still, obviously you have the cell salts, but do you still feel like people need the supplementation on the backside of that? Or where do you fall in lines with that?
Sometimes, and it can help if they need more supplementation, it can help that absorption, but I don't work with supplements. So that's not my area of expertise. I'm strictly homeopathic remedies.
Yeah. Okay. So on your, again, kind of switching gears because I wanted to cover a lot of things, but you also have a course on ticks. Everyone's concerned about Lyme, even though we kind of talked about the susceptibility of it. What and we're coming into this time of the year where we have seasonal allergies, which homeopathic remedies are amazing for seasonal allergies.
They are.
And, but we get into this, everyone's scared of Lyme, ticks obviously are a big fear. What are some things that we can do in this season to help with the prevention of, ticks and bug-borne illness and also seasonal allergies? I know those are kind of two separate questions, but can you kind of discuss, are there anything people can do right now to help support their system?
Yeah. I mean, constitutional care with a homeopath, learning about holistic ways to mitigate allergies and tick issues. So I can, recommend a remedy to people after they have a tick bite. But in terms of prevention, you're going to want to look at more of a holistic resource like Kendra, my business partner, The Holistic Mother. She has fantastic tick protection info. And we actually partnered to make a course called Lyme Protection and Tick Bite Care. So really 50% of the course is her talking about ways to protect yourself. So that's her area of expertise. And then my input into the course is, what do you do with an acute tick bite? What do you do with a case of acute Lyme? How can you use remedies to help with that? And then how constitutional homeopathy can help if you have chronic Lyme. So unfortunately, homeopathy isn't about just general wellness tips for prevention. That's more under the wider umbrella of holistic. And allergies too, really, if you have allergy symptoms, I can help guide you toward what specific homeopathic remedy to take. I have a great, in fact, $10 remedy guide for seasonal allergies. I have several posts and reels on my Instagram feed that will guide you. But in terms of, real holistic care, you want to follow Kendra Needham, The Holistic Mother, because she dives much more deeply into things like herbal supplements, vitamins, mineral supplements. You can do products for pets, products for your yard. She's a really great resource. I don't know if you've had a chance to check her out.
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation for those two things.
Okay. That makes sense. And I'll make sure and link all of these links and resources up in the show notes as well. I just have a couple more questions. One, as I was kind of thinking about that and thinking about the homeopathic remedies that getting into the root, do you feel like once people do one, do you feel like there's layers to this, I guess is what I'm saying? Is there a layer of okay, we looked at the whole here and this is the homeopathic remedy, but now we have to readjust? Or is it you got it? Is this a layer to healing kind of situation, or is it just a once and done?
It depends on the person. Sometimes it is. Sometimes during the initial intake, it's kind of like the tip of an iceberg where I can see so much, I give a remedy, and then more comes to the surface. It's not uncommon with today's sort of layered chronic illness as a result of multiple decades of suppression. But most people do really well on their first constitutional remedy. I would say 80% of my clients are feeling, 60, 70, 80% better really quickly. And then sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but I am a very, very dedicated practitioner. And I don't ever say, well, too bad it didn't work. Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I get a second opinion. I have them go see Kathy if needed for just a follow-up consult. I give everything my all. And I will say that at least 95% of my patients have experienced movement in their case and gotten better from homeopathy. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there adverse reactions or side effects to homeopathy?
No. Homeopathic remedies are very gentle, side effect free, safe for pregnancy, breastfeeding, newborns. Once in a while, somebody will have a little aggravation for a day or two after taking a remedy, which is actually a good sign. It means that it's engaging the vital force and symptoms get a little worse, but it's never any huge thing that's like, oh my gosh, you hear of people taking antibiotics and their lives were ruined and they've never been well since. Homeopathy has the ability to help with these cases of never well since, antibiotics, or I've never been well since medical procedure or intervention or since an illness. It doesn't have the ability to cause significant any harm or significant symptoms beyond a slight aggravation, which is really just your own vital force producing those symptoms. It's not the remedy causing the symptoms, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Last question. I mean, I think everyone's going to be interested in this now that we had this conversation. Is homeopathy good for anyone? Symptoms or no symptoms? Or do you feel like it's like if you're well, leave it alone? Or can you dig in? Like is this for anyone?
Well, I feel like everybody experiences stress. Everybody has something they'd like to improve. If you're feeling 100% in your love and life and there's no issue, don't bother looking for a problem. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of against these like whole body scans and these like, well, I'm just going to go get muscle tested to see what's wrong. No.
Yeah.
Don't do that. If you're feeling good, leave it alone and go enjoy life. Don't look for problems.
Yeah.
My goodness. But it's a rare person who can't benefit. Homeopathy has the ability to help, even with permanent, irreversible genetic issues. Homeopathy, obviously can't cure those. We don't claim to cure anything, but it can help you live your best life no matter what situation you're dealing with.
Yeah. So where does someone start?
So I would start by taking a course. I've got a great intro course called Coming Home to Homeopathy that Kathy Yo and I, one of my colleagues partnered with. We actually have a new course coming too, that if you're wanting to do the latest and really get your hands dirty with learning homeopathy, we have a course called Homeopathy for Infectious Disease and Childhood Illness. It just actually went on pre-sale today. We're super excited about it. We're going to cover homeopathic remedies that you have in your home kit to help with things like strep, influenza, and also some of these old-time diseases that may be making a comeback. Our conventional medical system is in shambles. I don't think it can handle another epidemic. We want to really build up our skills to care for our family at home using homeopathy. This course will give you the confidence, the empowerment, the skills that you need. We'll also cover like a history of homeopathy, a history of homeopathy's use in epidemics. Most people don't know that, homeopathy's been around a couple hundred years and has an amazing track record of helping people, but also helping really widespread use in things like the Spanish flu in 1819. It had a way, way lower mortality rate than conventional medicine. So homeopathy is really what you want to know should any of these diseases come back. And so we're going to go over how to treat all of them, how to utilize homeopathy for all of these issues. And we're also going to be talking about homeoprophylaxis, which is a program that is an alternative to the you-know-whats. Now, we don't offer homeoprophylaxis. We're just going to be weighing in, giving our thoughts about it. Because that's a hot topic. Many people are quite curious about homeoprophylaxis, which is using remedies made from diseases to stimulate an immune response in place of the other recommended childhood thing. Again, we don't offer the homeoprophylaxis. We're not against it, but we'll be giving information about it and our 2 cents on it. So it's a really comprehensive, like 2-3 session course. Includes a live Q&A with me and Kathy. So I'd love to give you information about that for your listeners as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And can you please inform us of where we can learn more about you and the work you do? Your Instagram page,
of course,
getting an appointment.
Yep. You can look at my Instagram, which is The Enlightened Homeopath, or my website, which is hoaglandhomeopathy.com.
Yeah. And I will link all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here. This has been a wealth of knowledge. I know I've learned so much and I'm so encouraged because I was honestly a little bit frustrated. Just feeling like, again, I was missing something and you gave me freedom there, but just to say like, okay, it's time to just really dive in with an expert in this field to understand it in a big way.
Yeah.
And get very specific with it. So I'm very encouraged. And I think all my listeners are going to love this. So thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's been just a great start to my day.
I mean, homeopathy is pretty amazing. And I hope you learned a thing or two, maybe even piqued your interest in learning more about how it could help you. Don't forget to head on over to hoaglandhomeopathy.com to learn more about Jenny and even scheduling an appointment with her or one of her providers. Many of them even have a free consult so that you can learn more and decide if this is really the best option for you. Now, as Jenny said, this is a very personalized support system for your body. And that's what I love so much about it. It's not this big boxed approach that rarely works, but it's something that dives into you and your experiences and your symptoms to really understand what is the best way you can support your body. So I'm a huge fan, and I just wanted to bring that podcast as another avenue, another tool on your healing journey. So I hope you love the podcast. If you have questions, send an email to me or reach out to Hoagland Homeopathy to learn more. Of course, don't forget to head to thelivingwell.com, sign up for the email list, and she talked a lot about energy. If you're suffering with energy, check out my brand new quiz teaching you how to channel your energy because you actually have the energy there. It's not something you need to get more of, but learn how to open up and get unstuck to release your flow. So you can find all of that at thelivingwell.com. Okay, that's it for today's podcast. I'll be back later next week with a brand new podcast. I'll talk to you soon.